Khairoon Abbas was born and raised in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. She moved to Canada 15 years ago to pursue her post-secondary education studies in communications and journalism. While she's had the opportunity to work for international organizations in different countries, including the United States and France, and traveled to many countries, she's happy to call Toronto her home, at least for now. Khairoon's inspiring journey is rooted in her family life and her journey as a daughter, a career woman, a wife, and most importantly as a mother of 2 boys, one aged 5 and the other aged 2. As you'll hear her story, the highs and lows she's faced are the building blocks she uses to inspire others, and this is her journey.
The value of education was instilled in me from a very young age. I was about 4 years old when my mother received the greatest news possible, a gift from Allah, I will say. She got a scholarship opportunity to leave Tanzania and to move to Canada to pursue her master's degree. And as a mother, I think it was a tough call to make between her family life, her career in Tanzania, and all of a sudden moving abroad and starting a whole new chapter. But alhamdulillah, I am so happy that she did that, not just for herself, but also for her family, for her mother, her father, her siblings. She was the firstborn of her family, as well as myself and her husband at that time. So she left me behind with my dad. I was in safe hands. But when she tells me about these stories, she talks about how the journey, the physical journey, was so challenging for her. She told me she couldn't eat the whole flight, just the thought of having left her 3-year-old daughter back home in Tanzania. But it's been an amazing opportunity for her. The outcome, we feel the impact to this day. Through her education, she's been able to get amazing jobs, alhamdulillah. She's been able to support her family through different stages of lives, not just her immediate family, but her extended family, the community at large, because of that opportunity that came with the education. So I've seen from a very young age just how education can transform lives altogether, and I'm super grateful for that sacrifice that she made at that time. And she did bring me with her after a year. She came here, she got settled, she brought me with her, and that's when my eyes really opened and I could see the struggles she had to go through to take care of me. You know, and as a young child, you need your mother and your father, you need your family there to help you through every stage, especially a 4-year-old who doesn't know what's going on. But she took me through every single step. She used to take me to her computer labs where she would type away, working on her thesis. I was there with her during her graduation. Of course, I didn't know what was going on, but as I think back now, I realized that exposure made me better understand just how important sacrifices are and how important education is. And alhamdulillah, you know, by the grace of Allah, here I am, 20 or so years later. I went to the same school as she did and completed the same degree that she did, a Master's of Journalism. And it just brings a nice circle to a complete end when we talk about our journeys of education. Growing up, I've always been told that Allah does not forsake His servants, that no matter what you're going through in life, be it good or bad, that you can turn to Him, you can express yourself, you can literally say whatever you want, cry, do whatever, He is there for you. And one of the hadiths that reminds me of this is when Imam Ali says that Allah tests us humans with trials, also so that we can be closer to Him and turn to Him in our moments of struggle. And there is no other bigger example I can think of a trial that I've been through and continue to go through in my adult life as my parents' divorce. My parents got divorced when I was 4 or 5 years old. And of course, at that time, I don't think I understood the impact of divorce. All I knew was that mommy had her own house and my dad had his own house. So it was really a tough moment to go through. But alhamdulillah, you know, I really got to understand what we mean when we say Allah does not forsake us, because He really didn't. Here I am today, able to share my story. Of course, it's an emotional one, and I'm sure that many other children of divorcee parents or broken homes go through as well. We just don't talk about it, and I think that makes the suffering even harder. But divorce really impacts us children the most. Of course, there's instances where divorce is something that you can't avoid. We have problems of abuse, be it physical or emotional, where it makes sense for that to happen. But we have to remember, especially in our beautiful religion of Islam, that Allah does not like divorce, that we have to do whatever we can to keep our marriages strong, if not for us, at least for our children. And from a young age, it really made me understand why that's the case. I remember growing up and wishing my mom and dad were there for all my milestones, high school graduation or parent-teacher conferences. I wanted to have both my mom and my dad on both sides. When my kids were born or just graduating university, all my milestones, it was one of the wishes I've always had, and I still have to this day. I'm an adult, I'm a mother now, but I still dream of a day I could have both my parents next to me celebrating, or in good moments and in bad moments. I want to give my children something I didn't have, which is both parents together under the same roof forever, for as long as Allah lets us. And that's my one prayer, that Allah blesses my marriage and all of our marriages so that we all remain a family unit for the future of our children. Allah has given a mother a specific role and a father a specific role, and together that family unit sort of gives the children the strongest foundation to grow and be good human beings and happy human beings. And that's the one thing this experience with my parents has taught me, to fight for my marriage and to pray that Allah gives all of our marriages chances of survival for the future of our children. Telling stories has always been my passion from a very young age, and I guess I have my parents to thank for that. My parents actually met in journalism school back in the 80s in Dar es Salaam. So when I told them after high school that, I think I want to go into communications and journalism, I'm sure they were thinking, oh, you're just going to do exactly what we did. But I am really thankful and happy that I pursued that passion, because I needed to do that, to tell the story of my continent of Africa. And for you to be able to understand exactly what I mean, I'll give a little bit of a backstory. When I moved to Canada back in 2002, straight from Dar es Salaam, I assumed that everybody knew about what Africa was, that we are a diverse continent of more than 50 countries, that there are many cultures, religions, languages, and that Africa is a rich continent. But I was surprised. I remember some of the questions I got when I landed in Canada were, how did you get here? Do you have planes in Africa? Or things like, you speak really good English. Where did you learn it from? Or you're wearing clothes like us. Do you guys have shops in Africa? And this is a little exaggerated, but at that time I was so surprised. What did people think about Africa? And I was in a university that had thousands of students. So I was so confused about these remarks. And some of them came across racist in their remarks or demeaning. And that fueled me into wanting to pursue communications. I knew I needed to study the skills of telling stories, the skills of communications across borders, so that people understood at least what Africa is and was. And that's what pushed me to work harder, to get my bachelor's in communications, because telling the story of Africa is my passion, and it will always be my passion. Once I finished my bachelor's degree, like any graduate around the world, you're looking for a job. And sometimes it's not easy. Of course, you're competing with all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds and skills. And at that time, I felt defeated. I felt like, I don't have the right skills. So I went back to school and I did a graduate certificate in script writing. Because at the end of the day, what you see on TV begins from a script, and even news anchors have to read scripts. So I thought maybe I should be doing things a little bit behind the scenes to help tell this story. And so I did that. I did a 1 year the certificate in script writing. And after, of course, the program ends, you're back to the same question: what am I going to do now? So by the grace of Allah, I got a call from the college that I graduated from saying that we have a new project coming up. It's a once in a lifetime kind. It's never been done. And the project revolves around telling the story of Africa for Canadian students, because Canadian students at the middle school and high school level needed more educational resources about Africa, things that are current, pictures that are from year 2000 as opposed to pictures from the 70s, that sort of thing. So they thought they would call me in for an interview for this new project that involves traveling from Cairo in Egypt all the way to Cape Town in South Africa by car, not flying, driving down 8 African countries. I was scared. I remember thinking, I am only 22 years old. How can you put all this weight on me? How can you believe I can do this? But after consulting with my mom, who, gave me all the pep talks I needed to really pursue this, because it was frightening at that time. And I was living by myself in Ottawa, and I had to pack everything away. My apartment went to zero. I gave back the keys, and my life was reduced to 2 suitcases. So said Bismillah, off I went on this expedition, it was actually called Expedition Africa. So it was really a dream come true. I went back home. I told the story of my continent to the best ability that I could. I spoke with all kinds of people from all walks of life. I managed to profile stories that we never hear about. Some of them resonate to this day. I met women who are living with HIV AIDS, how they got HIV. People always assume it's certain kinds of people that are subjected to these conditions, but really until you meet people and listen to their stories, you really have no idea the struggles they go through. And through that journey, I rekindled in me the love of journalism and the love of showing what is hidden. Here is a beautiful continent with its own struggles, with its own challenges. As we all know, any part of the developing world comes with challenges. But it taught me to look beyond that and look at the pearls, the beauty of Africa, and use my eyes as a lens for the Canadian students. And to this day, I think if you ask me what is your biggest accomplishment, what are you proud of the most, at least career-wise, I will say it's to trust my instincts to go on that expedition. And we all know that when there's a will, there's always a way, and Allah makes it all possible. If that's where you're meant to be, that's where you'll end up being. And it was a life-changing journey. I lost a lot of weight. I came close to very scary situations driving, because we had to travel by truck. And it wasn't easy, of course. I mean, I remember when we were in Egypt crossing into Sudan, I was thinking, they told us there's no road that's going to take you. You have to go on a ferry. And I thought, how are we going to get all these, we had 2 lorries on a ferry with all our equipment and make it through. But alhamdulillah, we made it. And I passed through my country. I told the story, and here I am today, so proud of that one small contribution I could make for my continent. Alhamdulillah, our beautiful religion of Islam encourages us to pursue education, to study, to get out there and broaden our knowledge, to travel, to really broaden our understanding of everything. And we live in a time right now where a lot of us women especially are getting more and more educated. We are working a lot of different kinds of jobs and are becoming increasingly financially independent and able to support ourselves. But while all this is positive, there are some challenges that I think as a community we don't really discuss much. And one of that is the issue of marriage. Across different communities, you will hear sometimes people will say, so-and-so is too educated to marry so-and-so, or, she works too much, or her career is too demanding. How was she able to be a good, righteous and pious woman, wife, and mother? And these are real challenges, and these are real issues that even I experienced firsthand. And I'm hoping that by sharing my story, we'll be able to sit back and think about what we say and the judgments we make before we understand a situation. We have a religion that gives us so many role models to pick from that we can get inspired, especially just looking at the Ahlulbayt itself. Bibi Khadija was a successful businesswoman, entrepreneur who used her fortune to help spread Islam, to take care of others, and to support herself. And to me, that is an inspiration in its own. And if I relate that to my life, I remember when my husband and I started talking about settling down. We both come from different backgrounds. I, at that time, had finished my master's degree and I was working an amazing job, alhamdulillah. And my husband has a different story of his own. He was a high school graduate at that time and he was working to support his family. His father passed away when he was 16. So the choice of further education was a little challenging for him because he wanted to take on that load of taking care of his family, which I'm happy he did because it was needed at that time. So different situations, and once our intentions of marriage were known, unfortunately, people would say things like, how can you marry someone who's a little bit more educated than you, or she's too educated, are you going to be able to handle something like that? Those judgments really can break people, and they're not needed because let's look at the role models that came before us and how they did things. Education should not be something that can undermine one's future, especially when it comes to marriage. What matters at the end of the day is the understanding between a husband and a wife and knowing how you're going to make your marriage work. Times have changed right now, and a lot of households do need double incomes to make it work, especially when you live abroad where life is just a little bit more challenging, especially when you factor in children and all the expenses that come with it. So I'm super thankful that my husband and I, we left the words go on and we said Bismillah, we got married and we had our own understanding. And one of the important things that we promised each other was that he would go to college. And that's something that I wanted to support him in because I had that opportunity. My parents were there for me and supported me through that. I wanted him to get an education that would help him become a more successful husband, worker, and eventually father. So as soon as we got married, we moved back to Canada. I moved back to Canada and he moved with me, of course. He started college within a month of getting here, 6 courses a semester. I don't know how we did it because it was tough at that time. I was working and he was studying, and alhamdulillah, Allah blessed us with our firstborn within a few months of him starting school. And as I tell you this story right now, I honestly don't remember how we did it. Having a newborn, we were both new parents. My mom was there to support us get used to the whole new chapter of our lives, but it was tough. Between assignments and a crying baby, a teething baby, between my work, all I can say is, alhamdulillah, we made it. And I was able to work with him to support him get his education while I supported my family, my growing family at that time. After 3 years of full-time studies, he graduated, and it was probably the most emotional moment being with my 2 children, seeing him graduate, because we didn't know that we would get to that level. And it was just good for me to also show my children that, look, there's Baba. Baba he went to school while you guys were still in mommy's tummy, and you're here, and here's Baba accomplishing something. And the same way that my mother inspired me so much on her educational journey, I just hope that my children are inspired just as much when they see their father pursue higher education and realize that there's really no age limit to education. You can be 60, you can be 20 and aim for a higher education that will help you live a life that enables you to get a good job and contribute to your society, your community, and of course your own family. So before motherhood came into my life, we're talking 6 years ago, life was completely different. It was very fast-paced. I had the opportunity to work in the United States, in France. Life was busy. I really loved my job, alhamdulillah. I was traveling. I was working with people of all kinds from all walks of life, from young people to educators. Life was just busy. And then motherhood comes. And as all working women, or any woman actually can relate to, motherhood makes us stop. Even if it's for that instant that your baby's born, it makes you stop and reevaluate things. And that was my life-changing moment. It made me realize that we need to slow down. Whatever that you have on the go, you need to take a step back and enjoy this moment, because Allah blesses you with this human being that depends on you for every single moment of their lives. Mothers are, in our children's eyes, I don't think there's anything that's more wanted by our children. Our existence to them is everything. And I came to realize that from a very early stage. I was working part-time and I was thinking, once my baby was a year old, I was going to go back to work full-time. I'll put him in care for 8-9 hours a day so that I could work and get back to my career. Maybe it wouldn't be a busy career like what I had, but I'd be working full-time. But life did not let me do that. My heart didn't let me do that. I found myself more and more looking for part-time work because I wanted to spend longer days with my children. I wanted to be there for every single moment. I enjoy dropping my son to school in the morning. I enjoy seeing his face at 3:30 after school. And if I were working full-time, this wouldn't be possible. But while I talk about this, there are sacrifices on our end as well, because I look at my friends who are amazing, who have amazing careers and are amazing mothers. But it doesn't come easy, You work a lot, you have a good income, you can live life a certain way. But when you sacrifice your work lifestyle and work less, there's some things that you've got to sacrifice in terms of, other things that you may want to do that you can't afford to do. But I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that, and I'm okay with working less so that I'm present more with my children. Because what I realize is that our children are only young for a very short period of time. My firstborn is nearly 5, and I feel like he was born yesterday. And in these 5 years, sure, 5 years is a long time, but it's really a short time in the big picture of things when you look at your career. Inshallah, I pray that one day I'll be able to go back to a busy career, but for now I just want to embrace these early years. I want to be there when they need me. I want to be able to take him to his Quran classes, to talk to him, to answer his questions, to be there throughout the day, because I know these moments, I will miss them. And had it not been motherhood, I probably would still be in that fast-paced life, but I needed motherhood to ground me and remind me that it's okay to take things slow. It's okay to take a step back and be there and be the mother that your children need you to be. In my short 34 years of life, what I've learned is that we should always follow our passion. Follow your dream. If it is your mission and vision to tell the story of something, you want to be a doctor, pursue it. It's never going to be easy. You'll have hurdles along the way, but when you surround yourself with encouraging people, with family that supports you and guides you through it, when you put Allah first and pray that He paves the way for you, I'm confident that if you're meant to get to that place, you will get there. And that's one thing that I've learned, and that's something that I've noticed also in my husband. That he, when we first started talking about education, there was hesitation, of course, because we live in a society where our husbands are leaders of our homes and they want to provide. But for us to get to that comfortable stage, we have to take some steps and take some risks, and that's what I've learned. And as a mother of boys especially, we all know that boys will do anything and everything. They don't really sometimes think about the journey. They just want to get to the destination. It's something I also want to instill in them. It's scary when they say things that they want to do, or they want to go somewhere without me. When you're overprotective, you want to be there with your children throughout everything. But I have to remind myself that it's okay for them to find their way as well. The same way that my mother let me find my way when I was struggling, deciding between what job or what career path to take, is the same way I want to pass on my children to remember those values of it's okay to take steps. We may not know the outcome, but take a risk, have faith, put Allah first, and inshallah your path will be made for you.